Hey guys, welcome back to Andy's Dinosaur Reviews, and today we have another brand new Captivz supersized figure, another of the Jurassic Park 30th anniversary, as we just recently had a new wave of supersized figures hit, and one of which was the Dilophosaurus. The other, actually there's three, but the second of this group that I'm reviewing here is this one, which is the Ankylosaurus, and there is also a Velociraptor, which we will review at some point, but the Raptor is a reused sculpt. This, however, is a brand new sculpt, just like the Dilophosaurus was, and man, did they ever knock this out of the park. Like, clearly they've recreated the Jurassic Park 3 Ankylosaurus here, and boy, they really did a great job on it. Like, it looks honestly perfect to me and so much better than the previous Ankylosaurus from Toymonster International. This is one of a few different species that I felt like really needed an upgrade, and they now have given it that upgrade, and boy, did they ever go all out for it. This looks absolutely gorgeous compared to the older version. We also, of course, have a card, which is the same card that we had with the smaller figures, just obviously in a larger size now since it is part of the supersized figures. So that's very fun to have the card in a larger size. And right there is actually the older Ankylosaurus. So you can see, when you look at the older one compared to the newer one, that is like night and day. Wow, did they ever do their homework to create this one perfectly? And looking back on that one now, you know, it's just amazing what a difference between the older one and the newer one. I do want to give a huge shout out and a thank you to Tim from Collect Jurassic, because he is actually the one that was able to help me acquire this one, because I purchased like a whole bunch of the eggs and all I was getting was the Dilophosaurus and Raptor, and he had an extra Ankylosaurus, so he offered it up to me, and again, I now have it here. So a massive, massive thank you goes out to Tim, again from Collect Jurassic, and on top of that, he also actually sent me a Collect Jurassic sticker when he sent this over to me, so again, thank you for that as well. So Tim, as always, being a wonderful human being like he is. And again, you can see, like I said, gorgeous when it comes to this Ankylosaurus, almost like a stagnant neutral pose, like I would say like a maquette almost from the Jurassic Park films, and that's, I think, one of the other reasons why I really like it as well. So let's go ahead and jump straight to a closer look at it and check it out from there. So, starting up here at the head sculpt of our Ankylosaurus, you can straight away see the likeness to this, and a Jurassic-style Ankylosaurus is pretty much perfect. You can also see the skin texture looks really good. We have that reddish tone there in the face, very clearly replicating the Jurassic Park 3 Ankylosaurus. You can also see that we've got the darker tone here leading back into the spikes there of the head, and you can see that same thing up here on the top of the head. We have that very nice kind of larger armored style scaling up here on the top of the head as well, and you can kind of see like a lighter tone sort of creeping through those scales, which is nice to see. You can also see the eyes painted with a black, nothing more than just a black, but it looks pretty good. We have the beak sculpted out and everything, and then you can see also down here we have kind of like a greenish tone meshing with like a light brown or like a light tan, and then there's also kind of like a very dark wash that's been applied, so just adding a little depth to the coloration of the Ankylosaurus, which is really cool. As we lead along the back of the dinosaur, you can see that there's like a greenish wash that's been applied up here on the top of the dinosaur, and that helps to really make all of the detail pop and give it a little extra color variation and show off the armored aspect of the Ankylosaurus, which looks really cool. And again, they've definitely replicated it when it comes to the Jurassic style perfectly on this Ankylosaurus, even including the spikes leading out here along the side, and you can see those sport that grayish tone that we have for the upper part, as well as a brown. As you move through, you can kind of see a little variation to those spikes. Moving down here into the side of the dinosaur, you continue to see kind of like that mixture of that dark wash, that kind of tan coloration, as well as a greenish dry brushing in certain spots. So they really did go and, apply a lot of paintwork to something like this. And considering, even though it's the supersized version, it's still technically kind of a minifigure. That's a lot of paintwork to put into something like this. You can see the muscle definition here in the front leg is very nicely done. You can see leading down into the foot sculpt. The foot sculpt as well looks pretty darn nice. There's some nice creasing there in the joint of the elbow and the elbow itself back there. You've also got some skin texture up here, kind of like some skin wrinkles and stuff here in the mid-stomach region as you move along. Muscle definition and everything highlighted again back here in the thigh nicely. And you can also see again some more variation of color leading down. You've got the calf muscle bulging, the foot sculpt yet again. And then you lead out into the tail, and as you lead out, you can see that we again have that same style of coloration here to the underside, and you can also see the skin texture and everything looks really good here on the underside of the Ankylosaurus. But you also lead out to the club tail, and you can see the club is also nicely sculpted. Kind of has like some of that dark gray just sort of splattered here on the underside. Same thing as you move along to the upper side, just kind of like sporadically showing up here on it. And then we also have more of that kind of light brown as well as that kind of green dry brushing. So a lot of color variation going on to the figure. And then you're going to see pretty much the same thing over here. No real big difference because as you can see, the legs are pretty much in the same spot on both sides. So once you kind of hold it to the side, the other legs kind of disappear, which shows you that we absolutely have this in as much of a neutral position as you could possibly get. But again, I really like that because it kind of almost perfectly recreates a maquette type look for this figure. And one thing that's really cool about these pop and lock figures is you can kind of turn the head and stuff. You almost have a little bit of articulation with them. You have to pop the head on and then the tail as well. So same thing going on back there where you can kind of tilt it to just add a little life to the pose if you want to, but otherwise that is again an absolutely incredible version of a Jurassic Ankylosaurus. Toymonster International absolutely knocked this one out of the park. As far as a size goes, for a length, you are looking at about 5.5 inches or 14 centimeters, and then for a height, just a hair under 2 inches or about 5 centimeters. For a size comparison, there is Mr. Papo T-Rex, the Attack Pack Ankylosaurus, and Robert Muldoon from the Mattel Jurassic World toy line next to our Ankylosaurus, also the Collect A human being, which I almost forgot to mention. But you can see it's pretty much the standard size range for the supersized Captivz. It's much larger than your standard Captivz figure, but also much smaller than, you know, a Ankylosaurus in like the Mattel line, like your average Ankylosaurus figure. It is still quite a bit smaller, but the size difference is definitely really cool. I love these supersized figures. I honestly wish they released them all in this size range because they just are always so great. And this Ankylosaurus, yet again, is a very cool but quite nicely sized and conveniently sized version of a Jurassic Park 3 version of an Ankylosaurus. And for one more comparison, just because, here is the Captivz supersized Jurassic Park 30th Anniversary Tyrannosaurus Rex, Rexy, whatever you want to call it, next to the Ankylosaurus, just to give you one idea of how these figures size up next to each other. So this brand new Jurassic Park 30th Anniversary supersized Captivz Ankylosaurus is fantastic, and I would say probably one of my favorite figures to come from the Captivz line so far. The sculpt is exceptionally well done. Again, pretty much perfectly recreating an Ankylosaurus from the Jurassic franchise, and they did such a great job on that aspect, giving it a very highly detailed look and a major upgrade from the older Ankylosaurus that they had released. On top of that, they also have some nice paintwork to it, again with quite a lot of variation of color. I think the only thing honestly that could have improved it even a little bit would have been like maybe some coloration on the beak and some paint on the nails, but the figure as a whole has really nice paintwork for something like this. Lots of variation of color. They've done a very good job of, you know, applying washes and dry brushing techniques and stuff to make sure all of the detail pops really nicely on it. You also have that kind of stagnant pose, which sort of replicates the maquette style version of an Ankylosaurus, which I also really quite like. And the pop and lock aspect is pretty fun because it allows you to kind of tilt certain body parts like the head and tail just to kind of give it a little bit of life if you don't like the stagnant pose. So as a whole, this is an awesome release yet again, and definitely one of my favorite Captivz figures that has been released so far. So if you are interested, make sure you head to your local Walmart, start grabbing yourself some of those supersized eggs, and hopefully you'll grab this, the new Dilophosaurus, and the new Velociraptor without having to get too many repeats. One way or another, definitely recommend grabbing this, so make sure you do, and also like, comment, and subscribe, and I will see you in the next review. Thanks for watching.